Kenny here with Gardening Simplified. It's July 15th and we're going to talk about tomato plants and getting some more for a fall crop. So let me get into it. I'm sitting here in my workshop. I've got me some potting mix and I've got me some tomato plants that I've cut off. Now these were suckers, or they were some of them were where I topped the plant. Some of them you can see they're forming tomatoes on there, and what we're going to do is we're going to put these in here and we're going to get these to grow. So let me get this camera out of my hand and we'll get after it. All right, now what we're going to do with these are we're going to trim off a lot of this extra growth, and I don't have my sharpest cutters here, but we're going to trim that off, and we're definitely going to trim off any of these fruit that's coming on here. Now, because these are, and you can see we got a little sucker there, we don't even want that on there. We're trimming this thing down pretty good. Now each one of these little hairs, and you should be able to see them there, these are going to put out roots. So what we're going to do, it's going to be a simple process. This is fairly soft, so we can just push this down in here, and we'll take and do each one of them that way. Now this is dry, I haven't pre-moistened it or anything. Once I get all these in here, I'm just going to wet this down, and we're going to plant these. But what I had done, and I don't know, there's some varieties, and these are all cherry tomatoes that I have. And these were actually cut yesterday. I had planned to put them in here, but I like most times I got carried away doing other things, have a lot going on, and so I didn't actually get to get these taken care of. Now I want to be careful and make sure I don't have any little tomatoes forming like I do on this one. I didn't see. I'd say I need to make sure, and then I didn't catch it. But you want to make sure you're not having any fruit come on these suckers or tops, whatever you ended up using, because what that's going to do is that's going to stress your transplant. Now it doesn't need a whole lot of leaves to grow, and this is like getting free plants. Now even if some of these die, which they all look pretty good, they've been sitting in water overnight, so they, and well, most of them, one wasn't, and of course when that happens they kind of wilt down, like it was actually this one here. And of course that's not any good, so you want to make sure you got good healthy plants. Now when you're doing this, when you're propagating tomatoes, and you say, well, why bother propagating tomatoes? Well, if I was going to plant some more and I had some seed that was planted at the proper time, which that would have had to have been about 2 months ago, and being I don't, we can speed up this process. Now a tomato plant, normally it takes about say a week to germinate, a week to 10 days. It germinates, it comes up, it starts growing now, and starts making a viable plant. Well, these here won't take that long. These take a few days to get acclimated and start putting out roots, and then they'll start growing like crazy. But you don't want to put these out into full sun. You want to keep these somewhere where they're getting some light, but you don't want them to get full sun. And a lot of times I set them on my little shelf by my window where I propagate a lot of my seeds, and I'll let them get that morning sun, and then later on in the day they'll get just indirect lighting from the window, and that works real good for that, because get rid of that, because that way they don't have that strong sun on them for very long and cause them to start wilting down. Now, if you plant enough of these and you lose some, you're not going to worry about it. I mean, and you can pinch these off if you want. Just pinch off the sides. I like to cut most of these. It just seems like I feel like it's a little easier on my plants. But I'm going to go ahead and get the rest of these planted up in here. All right, we got them all in there. Now we're going to give them some water, and we're just going to go down here and water each one of these. Now, I like to do it with my hose, which those of you that's been watching for a long time or watching a lot of my seed starting videos and different things, you're familiar with it. Now, I do have a little bit larger hose than I had in the past, because the other one just kind of slowed me down on. But we're gonna, as you can tell, I'm going pretty fast, because being this is dry, if you just water a lot at one time, all of it's going to go through. Now, I do have this sitting in another tray, but what I'll do is I go down and I water it, and then I come back and water it again. And I'm going to try to, instead of just watering a lot at one time and it all going through and going down in the tray and having to soak it back up, I'll just try to get a lot of it around it, because the biggest thing that can cause you a problem when you're doing this propagation of tomato plants is not having enough moisture in your potting mix. Because what'll happen is the plant wants that water. As you can see, they were pretty good from being 24 hours in a cup. They've done pretty good, but you can stick them in this potting mix, and if you don't get good water, they'll droop down right off, and it'll stress them, cause a problem. So anyway, I'm gonna let that soak for a little bit, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to water these again. But I still have another cup of these to plant. So what I'm going to do is get these all potted up, and then we'll talk about a little bit more about why we're doing this. There we go. We got them on the shelf, and it's almost sun's fixing to come up. So this faces east, and this is where I normally do my propagation or seed starting. I start them inside. The temperature's much, I'd say better on most seeds for them to germinate. Sometimes this time of year it gets too hot. Now these do have some grow lights here, which will come on in a little bit, but that's not going to be too much light. The way this is set up, it'll be a minimal amount, which will help them out. But now let's go out to the garden, and we'll see why and talk more about why we're propagating. All right, we're out here in the greenhouse, and as you can see, we got some tomatoes that are doing pretty good. Now, these are indeterminates, but they have not been pruned. I pruned a little bit right close to the ground, but as far as to prune them, the only thing I've been doing is I've been cutting off the wild ones that comes out. I try to keep a lot of them up to the lines. Now, we've actually taken out a lot of these tomatoes right here because you can see a lot of the tomatoes are suffering right now. The heat gets them. These plants get older, and just like us, they get tired. The two that I had propagated, one is this sun gold. Now, you don't have to wait till this time of year to propagate, and it's kind of nice to come out here in the garden and get a snack. And I didn't eat on camera because I'm behind the camera. But anyway, if sun gold is kind of expensive seed, you pay $4 or $5 for 10 seeds, so you're giving quite a bit per seed. But once your plant starts growing, and you can see where I've clipped the end off of this, leaving some of these to grow on. But once your plant starts sending out suckers, you can take those suckers off that plant and you can plant you more if you're needing more plants than what you have. So that works out good. But for me, it speeds the process. I've got to come in here and I got to cut these out. Now, these Brad's Atomic grapes, I have eaten a lot of them, but what's happened is these particular ones, and I've been just basically letting them rot on the vine, but the leaf foot bugs tend to attack these more. So what they've done is they've took and stung them up so bad that they just aren't any good. Now, I've also, but I haven't propagated this variety here. This is my Oxheart, and the Oxheart is a good tomato. You can see right down here, the leaf foot bug is doing its best to sting that up. But we've got most of the tomatoes that were good, and then the vines died. Now, what we do is we have a few good green tomatoes on here, and what we'll do, we'll take these plants out, and we'll take all the green tomatoes and gather them up, and you can watch some of my videos at the end. We do have just a few that's still good, that's ripened up. We'll collect those too. But we're going to take all these plants out of here and get rid of them. Now, my black cherries the same way. They've got stung up so bad that it wasn't worth picking the cherry tomatoes off them. So the only two that we're going to propagate, we've got our big red cherry tomato, which is doing pretty good, and then we've got our sun gold. But we got to come out here early in the morning with our vacuum and vacuum these up. But there's so many of these this time of year that there's no way to really keep them out. Now, what we'll do on this one, we'll probably prune this back, get rid of these bugs on here, and then we'll tie this up so it's not going to be hanging all over the place. But we'll get rid of a lot of this dead stuff and see if it might want to recover. But anyway, that's the main reason is if you want a second crop, and we're down here in zone 8B, but tomatoes don't take that long to grow. In our long growing season, we still have time to make another crop. And like I say, instead of wasting your time planting seeds, it's just easier to propagate. You get your plants faster, and you do a whole lot better as far as getting your next crop in the ground. Now, I do have out here, I have some more tomatoes, and the plants, some of them was getting affected. Now, this right here are my red snappers. Oh no, we took all them out. We harvested all the green tomatoes, and we took this row out, so we'll replant it with probably some zippers. But over here we've got our Cherokee Purple. Now this is a nice tomato plant. Sometimes you get a fasciated bloom, and so you'll get a big ugly tomato. But these are getting to where they're kind of playing down. And when we come down and we trimmed a bunch of leaves and plants, the ones that weren't actually in cages, we and fell over, we cut them out. We cut all the vines that had got out of the cages, like this one here is out, and eventually it'll get tall enough it gets into the row, so we cut all those out and trim that up. But what I'm going to do is, because I want some more tomatoes, and the Cherokee Purple is a great flavorful tomato, I'm just going to come up here. I got suckers all over the place. I didn't prune these any at all. I can come in here, I can snap some of these suckers off, and I'll probably just plant me a little tray of 18 plants, but just like those others, I'll come cut these out and get those potted up, so I'll have some more. And what I'll do is I'll put all these other tomatoes actually in the greenhouse, because we're still in a lot of heat. The greenhouse shade cloth does provide a little bit of deflection of a lot of that sun, so they don't get as hot. They tend to be a little more leggy because they don't get direct sun, but they grow good and produce good. But anyway, I hope this is helpful. I hope that if your tomatoes are suffering like mine and you still have them in the ground, you hadn't got rid of them, and like I say, it could be disease, it could be some that the leaves are shaded out down here, whatever. But you can see the top of the plants are nice and healthy. So as long as you have nice healthy plants, you can take those cuttings and grow you some more. But anyway, I hope this is a good tip for you. I hope you can make good use of it. And if you're down far enough south, 7, 8, and 9, and you want more tomatoes, well, get them started, because once it cools down a little bit, they'll produce like crazy. And if you have extra green tomatoes at the end of the year, you can go back in my videos and you can see we take those off. In fact, I'll show you what we've done with the other ones. And here we go with the others. Now, this is the problem that we have. Of course, this one needs thrown out. But you can see how stung up this is. They don't attack the green ones. They'll start getting them whenever they're ripe. Now, this is still a good edible tomato, but the thing is it's not very pretty. But you can see signs of being stung. And when we talk about stung, what we're talking about is like your leaf foot bugs, your stink bugs and stuff. They pierce these to suck the juice out of these tomatoes, and each place they do this, they cause this problem where it doesn't ripen. You end up with a tomato that has a whole lot of green on the edge. It's still a usable tomato, but it just isn't all that great. But what we did was, and these are our red snappers. We picked any of them, little or big. It doesn't matter if they're little bitty like this or what all. We just pick them, and then we'll let them ripen up. Once they get ripened up, we'll take and either process them directly, or we'll put them in a freezer bag, and then we'll juice a bunch of them at one time. But we just have a stack of tomatoes here. But anyway, that's what we'll do with our tomatoes that we get close to the fall. If these Cherokee Purples that we grow up, if they don't, all the tomatoes don't ripen and we're going to get a freeze, what we'll do is we'll just pick them all off. We'll stack them in these trays, and after a period of time, and what I recommend, and we haven't done this one, but cover the top so But it does keep the gases in there, so these ripen up good. They taste a lot better than store-bought tomatoes. They're not quite as good as the ones ripened on the vine, but they're really a whole lot better than anything you're going to find in the store. But like I say, I hope this is helpful. If you want to see more, well, hit that subscribe, hit the bell so you'll be notified, and give it a big thumbs up. Share this video. It really helps my channel. Happy gardening.